This is Regenerative Skills, the podcast helping you to learn the skills and solutions to create an abundant and connected future. I'm your host, Oliver Gaucher. So at this point, I think we all know that YouTube videos, social media posts, and blog snippets will only get you so far. If you really want to develop the knowledge and skills you need to live regeneratively, you need the thorough information in a full book. Through their diverse range of publications, New Society Publishers' books explore topics that are at the forefront of creating positive change in our world. From regenerative agriculture and permaculture to social justice and eco-conscious living, their books cover a wide spectrum of subjects that empower readers to lead more regenerative and fulfilling lives. So whether you're a seasoned environmentalist, a curious beginner, or someone simply seeking inspiration and guidance on your journey towards regenerative living, New Society Publishers is here to support you every step of the way. If you subscribe right now to their newsletter at newsociety.com, you'll be the first to receive sneak peeks at new content and get discounts on upcoming title releases. You'll even get an exclusive discount code on their first purchase of books, ebooks, or audiobooks. So sign up today at newsociety.com. Hey there everybody, and welcome back to the monthly panel sessions. In this session that I hosted with the Climate Farmers, we dive into the lives of three passionate farmers, Julia, Anne, and Mateo, who are not only dedicated to regenerative agriculture, but also deeply invested in their communities. Each farmer shares their unique journey, their challenges, their successes, from establishing cooperative farms to activities that bring people to participate in the work and the bounty that they're creating. This conversation explores the essential role of social design, community engagement, and the diverse activities that make their farms resilient and impactful. We also go into the practical steps on everything from building relationships with local communities to navigating cultural differences, all while highlighting the importance of personal growth and understanding in fostering a thriving regenerative ecosystem. Now, they're all going to give their own intros right here at the beginning, so why don't we just jump right in. All right, so welcome everybody. Today we're going to be focusing with three farmers that I admire a whole lot, partly for the incredible work they're doing on the land, but especially today for the work that they're doing in their communities as well. And that'll be the focus of our discussion. So this is part of the panel series that we do here with Climate Farmers to not only answer questions that come up in the community that we host, but also explore topics that are at the highest end of priorities of the farmers that we're discussing with, and that help to open up the scope of what regeneration means, not just in the land, but also with the people and in the businesses that help to make them run. So with that out of the way, let's go through some introductions. So I'll give it to each one of you to tell me a little bit about yourself and the farm and where you're at. Maybe we can start with Anne.
Yes, very glad to be here. Yeah, what shall I tell about myself? Like I'm a new entry farmer, so I come into farming from a rather surprising angle. My fascination has been a nature-culture divide while doing my studies. I have a big love for art. I'm a bird watcher. And actually, the first thing I wanted to be in my life was a farmer. I was 5-6 years old when I thought about farming. I expressed it at primary school that I wanted to be a farmer, and I got a lot of negative feedback. So that taught me a lot about how society looks at farming. So then I lost it for a long time. I've been a curator. I've been doing projects, rights of nature-related projects, founded the Embassy of the North Sea. And then I met a love of my life, a Spanish biologist, Mateo. And together we found out that the most beautiful thing to do in our lives was to farm regeneratively, inspired by some pioneers in Europe. And then we started our first farm. That was like 7 years ago. And it was a 5-hectare small urban farm. And currently, since 1.5 years, we moved to a bigger farm, a community farm. I think we will talk a lot more about that, but 45 hectares in the east of the Netherlands. It's a mixed farm with a lot of different business lines. We have 9 business lines, 4 farming lines that are fruit orchard, tree nursery. We have a garden and some arable plots and animals.
Fantastic. Mateo, can you tell us about your operation and how you got into the farm?
Well, everything started when I was born. I since very young age, I never liked institutions and anything connected to behaviors, formal behaviors and institutional behaviors. So I think the result of being a farmer, I think it was just the consequence of that. So I've been all my life loving nature, ecology in all its manifestations. And I started the agricultural high school at 14 years old. And we had a farm at the high school. So it was a beautiful experience. It was a 5 years experience. And then after that, I travel by bicycle all around Europe, moving from one farm to another and working different projects, following all sorts of courses connected to agroecology, regenerative agriculture that I liked, or following those people I was reading the book of. And then I came back to Italy, I think around 13 years ago, where I started a farm with some friends on Lake Garda. And then during a course, I met Paola, also the love of my life. And she was just choosing a land to buy because she wanted to start a farm too. And then I moved from one lake to another. So now we are at Lake Iseo. And basically we started as a couple, as a family with our kids. And since the beginning, we wanted to create more of a farming ecosystem rather than a family farm. We never wanted to work with employees. So since the beginning, we opened the farm to people that wanted to become steward of the same piece of land and take their own responsibilities and risks together with us, of course, to manage what we are running today, which is Easy the Farm.
Thank you so much, Mateo. And Julia, tell us about your place.
Okay, so me, I also don't come from this field because I was working for many years as a professional photographer. And then like 10 years ago, I was doing an artist residency in the south of Spain, and it was in the countryside. And there was like a very big permaculture garden. And that's where I started to be more in touch with agriculture. And I really fell in love with permaculture. And then I was living in Berlin for work, and I was missing gardening a lot. So I started working as a urban farmer and also designing community gardens there with an organization that it's called City Plot. And then from there, I took my PDC, and that's where I met my colleagues, Ricard and Anna. And they were starting to set up a farm in Catalonia, where I live and where I come from. And so they invited me to join the project, and we started this farm as a cooperative in the north of Barcelona, the foothills of the Pyrenees. And right now we are 6 partners, and we have also 2 children. And so there's part of the team who are family related and others that are not. And the nice thing is that we all come from very different backgrounds. Some of us come from other fields, but for example, Ricard and Anna is a biologist. Ricard has always wanted to be a farmer. So it's nice because we can combine many of our different skills in the things we do. And so in the farm, we have the animals, we have cows and sheep. We also have the fruit trees, and we have a market garden. And besides that, we also have a bookshop in the capital city of the region, in Ripoll. And we do a lot of inter-cooperation projects, and also a lot of, how do you say, divulgación, like
dissemination of information.
Our experience in the regenerative world with other people and other farmers. So yes, that's it.
And all of you said that as if that was like a small endeavor to be doing. It's really impressive just how far you stretch yourself in order to include the communities around you. And I want to go a little deeper with you, Julia, because, well, you're the farm that I know best. You're about an hour north of me, and I've had the good fortune of visiting you a couple of times. We even hosted our last Spanish community event at your guys' farm. Now, tell me a bit about how this came together, because I know there were years of preparation in getting the structure of your cooperative working before you actually started any farming.
Yes, we spent the first 2 years before 2020. We spent a couple of years just at the beginning. We were all living in different places. So we would gather every month to work on the project and basically to get to know each other better and to lay out all the group work that we thought was essential before moving to the place. And we also spent all these 2 years doing all the planning and design of what we wanted to do. And then after these 2 years, we finally got this farm and we started there. But there had been this work before, and very focused on the group and the relationships between us, the dynamics, all that. And for that, we had the facilitate, like a special organization that works on facilitation for groups. So they had a program for us, and they were like meeting with us every month to go through their program. And we also worked with another co-op that was helping us to design the project, really taking into account a regenerative way of thinking. So it was also very helpful to think about our mission, our vision, and how we wanted to develop the project.
All right, I want to circle back around now to Anne. So you recently, in just the last couple of years, switched from your original farming location to the new place. And I've really enjoyed watching that transition and hearing from behind the scenes all of these things that you have overcome in order to make that happen. Tell me about this new configuration, because you have more partners and more stakeholders on this farm. So doing it as a community endeavor was sort of baked into the process from the beginning. How has that come together, and how has that blossomed into what you have now?
Yeah, that's certainly the case. One thing I wouldn't advise to move farms because it's not something you want to do necessarily. But yeah, so this farm has been set up as a community farm from the very beginning. So the farm is a land farm, and that's a cooperative model. And I was also part of the beginning of setting up the land model and advising on how that could be done. And basically, it can exist because there is one rich entrepreneur that earned way too much money in the payroll industry in Rotterdam, and he put 10 million euros that he got out of a company in a foundation to start regenerative community farms in the Netherlands. And it works in the way that the Lenteland Foundation pre-finances a farm. Then a local corporation is put into place, and that's the corporation that owns the buildings and the grounds of the farm. And ownership within the model is split. So there's juridical ownership, there is economic ownership, and there's creative ownership. Farmers can apply to a Lenteland farm with a business model, and then they can get for their lifetime the creative ownership of the place, which means that you make the operational decisions and you farm on the ground, basically, and you make a plan for that. And the juridical ownership is with the Lenteland Foundation that ensures that it will be regenerative community farms also over several generations, so protects basically the core mission and vision juridically. And the economic ownership, that is part of the community because everybody can share or everybody can buy shares of the farm, become co-owners of the farm. And with that, the farm is sort of lifted out of the speculative markets because it becomes a commons in a way. So it's a marriage, you could say, between commons and regeneration. And by having profitable business lines on one side, which is our responsibility as entrepreneurs in this place, plus having people buying shares of the farm so we can lift ground and buildings out of the speculative market, we can repay a debt that is actually quite patient capital, which is what you need for regeneration, back to the Lenteland Foundation. And with that money, they can pre-finance another farm.
Fascinating. And so with this configuration, how has that allowed you to participate more fully with all of the people that are involved in it?
Yes, so I think if you start with the mindset that it's got to be a community-owned farm and it's not your ownership, like there's no private ownership in our model, it leads you to a very different way, I think, of setting up a farm organization as well. So the co-owners that we have, and I'm super grateful for them, I noticed they're not only in there because they want a financial return, but they're very engaged in many different ways. So they really feel part of the farm. Of course, this also takes a lot of work because it's not about selling certificates. It's about having relationships with people. And currently we're We're like 1.5 years in. We have now for more than 800K in co-owners. So that's about around a community of 200 people. So it's also a lot of community management is part of the work. But what you get in return, I think, is real gold. These are networks, these are engaged people, these are your best critics, I would say. So they're supportive, but they're also very critical. And I think that's really valuable. And the beautiful thing is that it connects so many different people also to the place. So you have we have our local conventional neighbors. Some of them are also co-owners. Some of them are also having our veggie box. So that's really nice. So you see a connection over there. But you see that the network is local, is national, and European. And these 3 levels also meet each other in this community and at the farm. And I think that's super beautiful because they can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from each other in a way. So that's very valuable, and it makes the place very, very live. It makes the place come alive in many different ways. And I think the beautiful thing is that everybody has a connection to either us as farmers, to the place that we're in, because some people become a co-owner because their mother lived in Lochem, which is a nearby town, and it reminds them of their childhood. Other people live now in the UK, but their grandparents, they had a factory in actually mining some kind of mineral in this region, and they want to do something back in that region. So you have very different reasons why people are just fully into regeneration and they love what we do. So you have very different reasons, but it's all a connected relational reason to invest. So money becomes sort of loaded also with meaning, and that is also something you feel in the place, and I think that's beautiful. Yeah,
I love that. I love the focus on relationship there, because that really is a difference between having mostly a public-facing farm that just tries to sell its goods and one that engages in a deeper way and builds relationships with those people in their community to have a reciprocal thing that isn't just transaction of giving goods, getting money and such. Now, Mateo, I know you think about this a lot for your place as well. You talked about just a second ago wanting to have collaborators and not employees. Tell me how you've set up the structure of your farm to incentivize engagement and get people involved with your efforts.
So if my connection drops, I will re-enter. I don't know what is going on with the Wi-Fi. I'm in Brussels, so I can't control it. So basically, being an anti-institutional person, what we did basically, it was very, very, very natural. I mean, we had lots of people passing by the farm, volunteering, internships, people that were interested in what we were doing. And so we had the chance to be sort of connected with over 200 people in the past years that live with us. And the way we basically relate ourselves with the people that come to help us in the farm is from the beginning is we don't create a distance. So basically everybody is how to say, it should be open to, I mean, we are open to critics, we are open to suggestions, to advising, and also we like to share the knowledge and the experiences of everybody, not counting just on what is our experience. So little by little, we had few people staying for a few years, and we set up a system that now we became a company from a simple family farm, and we are 5 people in the company. Everybody is responsible of a certain area, but many more people are gravitating around the farm. And ideally, because of all the enterprises, agriculture and non-agriculture, but related also to landscape and farming that we have created and we are creating, there is room for a lot of people. Our idea was to basically to prove to our neighbors and to the system that you can live out of farming. And especially the farm that we are managing now was managed by one person part-time, maybe 3 months a year. And now we are more than 5 people, more than full-time the whole year around. And there is more room already to have other people joining. Basically, what we like to do is to stack a function, is to verticalize, is to stratify all the services and the production that the farm can provide, and interconnecting them in such a way that, of course, energy, resources, machineries, processes are shared between the whole community. At the same time, what we share completely is the economy. So it doesn't matter if I go to do a consultancy, or we have a kindergarten in the farm with Antonella, or we sell mushrooms or vegetables. All the economy goes into, how you say, is a community economy. So basically, we pay off all the expenses, the investments, and so on, and then we divide equally between everybody, without looking if someone has been producing more money than someone else. For example, for us, the kindergarten is producing more than money. Of course, is producing money, but at the same time, is the priority is culture, is having children that learn from their super young age how to be stewards of the land. And so it's okay if it's not as efficient as it should be from a financial point of view, economical point of view, because there are other activities which are supporting it. But we believe that children is the most important thing for the future. So basically, I've summarized very, very much what we are doing. It has been a huge effort from a social point of view, of first working with us, with individuals, and trying to, how do you say, to smooth our our steep angles on those aspects of sharing with someone else the work, decisions, risks, and so on. So first you have to work with yourself, especially when either me and Paola, my partner, we are not really community people. I mean, I've been living in many communities, and I still don't want to create a community. The community is the consequence of rehabilitating the landscape and sharing resources, spaces, and a common objective. So we didn't start the farm thinking we want to have a community. Is the landscape that we are regenerating, and more abundance year by year is produced by the farm. That abundance needs to be managed. Of course, it's not that I don't like the people I'm living with, and not really living, but I'm sharing my work, money, and so on. But is to stress the point of the difference between wanting to create a community, and the community is born because there is a need of it. So is what I call is more a functional structuring of a community.
That is really interesting, especially because it runs in contrast to how Julia and her cooperative set theirs up, where they started with the intention of community and put years of organization and structures into that. And yours is the opposite way around. You started with the farm, and the community emerged from the activities. It just goes to show that this can come about in many different ways. Now, going back to Julia, I want to start around here where we talk about some of the realities that set in when you're doing this, right? I know all of you will have stories to share of road bumps and learnings that have happened in this journey. Julia, can you impart some experience to us about some things that you learned in the process that maybe you would do different or would advise a different way?
Well, first of all, thank you to Anne and Mateo. This was very interesting. I was also thinking, and maybe I go a bit off topic, but also we don't own the land, we rent it. And the owner is one of our partners in the community. So that's also a complicated situation, I would say, and that it requires a lot of work and conversations and thinking about it. And I think in our specific case, it's challenging. It's challenging to have like members who are family, members who are not, and also it's challenging the fact that we live all together, so we don't have like separate living units, but we all share the same space, the same kitchen, the same living room. We only have our own rooms, but the rest of the space is shared, and I think that's quite challenging. And actually right now, because we always had the idea that in the future, once the business was more stable, we would try to invest money in having like separate unities. but we're not there yet. But we are starting to see the urgency of that, because we all have like different lives. And we all have different needs. And I think if we would start again, I would consider that from the beginning, because it's really hardcore to share everything, like the living, the work. I think it's a lot. So maybe it's not necessary to do it all at once. So this is something that I think I would definitely do different. I would, if that was possible. And some of the challenges we have now, it's also this, I don't know, I found very interesting all what Anne was explaining, because I didn't know about your farm. And I mean, we are already realizing that even 6 people is not enough to run like the project that we have. So we will need more people. And we also have a lot of volunteers passing by and staying with us for months, and all these relationships that we've created all these years. But we also starting to think, how are we going to do that? You know, how are we going to open up this project to other members who can come in, thinking about different possibilities for the type of membership, of ownerships that are possible. So this is also something that is happening right now in our project, that we're starting to think about all this. And I don't know, I think the fact that we, like, for us, it's very important to keep on working on the group work. So we still do group work with a facilitator, and we do it every 3 months, more or less, besides the meetings, like we have weekly meetings to see how everyone's doing in a more like emotional dimension. And I think this is very important to keep doing this work if you want to be in a community. And also the working on your own issues, obviously, but also dealing with all the tensions and problems that keep arising. Well, they're not really problems, more like tensions and difficulties that come up from the fact of wanting to do a community project and not like a single project or something. So yes, I think that's it.
That is very valuable. I can definitely vouch for the need for personal space. It was something that was missing in my previous community farm effort in Guatemala, and it contributed to some tensions that caused the thing to fall apart. So I definitely understand how that can be essential. And can you give us some insights from your 2 different farms that you have run and what you've learned in both of those processes?
Yes, yeah. I think perhaps the most, thinking also about the time, the most interesting one is this last farm I've been working on, because it's a lot more complex, I would say. But I totally agree with Julia about the importance of social design. It's just as important as proper farm design, because otherwise things can become unnecessarily tense. 2 examples that we had in setting up this farm was, we also have a big team. And also people are living here as well. So that's also part of the social fabric of the farm. And we had a very difficult move in timing from one farm to the other farm. So we had to move our farm in February, March, which is not a nice moment to move a farm because you're already way too late for a season. So we had 1 year where we were just building. We were building market gardens, we were building polytunnels, we were building structures. We all moved from different contexts, and we didn't have time, to reflect, to sit down, and to do the organizational work that needed to be done. And that's something now we're catching up on that. And one of the things that gives us a lot of clarity is that we asked everybody in the team to write a holistic context. So you basically get clarity in what kind of world do I want to live, what kind of life would I like to lead, and what am I committed to do to get there. So it's like a decision-making framework that you put on paper, and everybody gets a statement of purpose that rolls out of that. And with that clarity, we also asked everybody to fill in like a simple matrix in which they say, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I know, and this is what I love. But also, this is what I cannot do, this is what I don't know, and this is what I dislike. So we had everybody fill those in as well. And now we're in the process of writing a holistic context together for the farm. So that's like on another level, which takes a lot of time because it goes as fast as the slowest, person you have to take along. And we're also very busy with all kinds of other stuff. But it really helps because then we will have one sort of governance document for the whole farm. And what also comes out of that, and that group and individual work, is that we are setting up now one Excel in which everybody has clarity on their tasks. So until the task defined, like what is the work that you do and why, because it becomes clear out of the previous work we done, holistic context and the matrices, on why a certain person should do a job and have the responsibility for that and what that means. And I think this really helps us to reduce the noise that is always going to be there in a very complex farm organization, because it creates a lot of clarity. So we are now at the stage where we have like this Excel with all the tasks, and then we have sort of marked in colors where the noise is, because we asked everybody to fill in the tasks and who is main responsible and who is the backup of a task. And then if several people fill in the same thing, oh, there's noise. So these 3 people should sit together, figure it out, and split the tasks, and then you get the clarity. And that's the work we're doing now. And yeah, of course, in a dreamt up situation, you would do this all up front, but you also figure things out while you're doing it. So what actually the task should be that really befits you. And yeah, and also there is always a context of time and space and challenges and moments, and that just changes the path of how you can approach things. But that is something I can really advise. Just if you do one thing, write a holistic context and get that clarity for yourself and for everybody you're working with within that community of a farm. And yeah, and that's, I think, slowly but surely, we're still building a lot, but that gives some kind of peace. You also feel people can land better if that clarity is there. That helps a lot also with getting the work done in a joyful way.
I'm so glad to hear that the holistic context process has been so useful for you, as I've heard that from many other people, and it's a process that I advocate for and work a lot with my clients too. Now, Mateo, in this evolution of your community, in order to manage the abundance and the responsibilities that have come up from your farm's growth, give us some insights into some of your main learnings and challenges that you've overcome that you could advise us on.
On the community level, right?
Sure. Yeah.
We didn't. I would say that in this past 10 years, we didn't really change much of the structure, and our objectives and vision hasn't really changed a lot. What it changed has been, again, the individual work is how much you can stretch with your behaviors until where you can compromise yourself for a higher purpose, which is the community purpose or the ecological purpose. And I think much of it lays behind not giving us too much importance as individuals and sort of putting into the social ecosystem design ecological principles rather than social principles. That's because my background, at least I speak for myself, is not social, has been ecological and scientific all the time. So I don't have that formal background, but I can use my senses. Speaking about ecological capacity, I can use my senses. I can see with my eyes if a person is in tension. I can hear the voice, being the words or the vibration of the voice. So I think it's a matter of becoming more human. And for sure, I know that the approach that Anna was saying now, that would be very helpful for us to speed up certain processes. At the same time, we are a little bit Italians, so we have the recipe, but we always change it every time. And every single person adds something new, unexpected. But the dish at the end, it comes out always good to eat. Sometimes you have to remove a little bit of a burnt or an uncooked part, but still, the final result is good. And is is not a matter that we judge and we give us our own feedbacks, but the people that come through the farm, they are basically the elements, the traffic lights that allow us to understand how we are manifesting as a community. So is really taking everything from an ecological perspective. Understanding, first of all, is very important, which is connected to the holistic context and what Anne was saying. What is your role in this ecosystem? What are you made for? Do you really want to do something you are not made for? If yes, are you able to use extra energy for a certain period to achieve results that normally they're not really, that they should have been compatible with you? So it's a sort of a trip, a path between brambles and very soft and beautiful plants, and then again something spiky and so on. And the interesting thing is that we are getting to a point where, of course, we have lots of tensions. Me and my partner, we are very hard. We have a very thick skull, okay, and we needed a lot of time to make it thinner and thinner and thinner. So the interesting thing is that one of the elements that I think it worked the most during meetings or helping us to tell something to someone in order to have a better system for all of us is to make things, I say, with irony, with fun, okay? To make fun of serious things, or just let the people manifest themselves and then realizing, okay, there are bigger problems to think of. And this doesn't mean not giving importance to what people are saying. Is really listening to all of us, at the same time trying to understand how much importance to give to every single problem that raises to the community. So it's a slower path. And I finish by saying, we don't want to create the best social ecosystem for us. We have kids. We have many. We have some kids in the farm. We have kids at the kindergarten. So we are looking at a long-term succession of the social ecosystem, and we are open also to leave, let's say, certain unnecessary and non-efficient either behaviors or experiences in order to experience everything that will allow us to have stronger foundations. I really see that we went through quite hard times sometimes, but we are strong. We didn't leave them as traumas. They are material for stronger and wider foundations.
Fantastic insights there. Now that we've gone through some of the difficulties and the things that you've overcome, I'd love to learn about the activities or the investments or the things that you've put an effort into that have gotten the biggest result or feedback from your community. Now, Julie, I know that you have run newsletters, you've done all kinds of events in your local town. What things that you have organized as a farm have brought in the biggest return of goodwill or participation from the community that you're a part of?
So difficult to answer in just like one thing, because
Well, you can give us an overview if it was a combination of a few.
I think it's all happening with a combination of different things. There's not like one thing that has been like, it's more like adding, keep working on it and keep doing stuff, and at the end, every year you see that it's getting bigger. So yes, we have this open farm day at the farm that we organize every year, and it started very small with just the family coming, and now there's like around 150 people coming from around, and as well as the family. And we do a lot of, like, we do a farm tour, but we also do concerts, we read poetry, we do dance, theater. Anyway, so this is a big day for us, and it has proven to be like a very nice way to enlarge like our impact, or yes, the relationships with the local community. Also, yes, we do a lot of like printed work, like newsletters and stuff like that, that we give to our clients. So, and in there we explain what's happening in the farm and our vision. And I think that also has helped. But then also, I don't know, like all the intercooperation projects that we do, they have different levels. So we have like, things like today, meeting with climate farmers, but then we do have a lot of interaction with the local things that are happening. So there's, for example, we just started now, like a few months ago, the Association of Local Farmers, and these farmers are not doing regenerative, they're conventional cow farmers. But for example, it's been really interesting to become part of that association and to start, like getting it from the inside, and starting to put things on the table regarding our vision of how we farm, and to have like an impact on all these people who are working very different from how we do it. That has also been very interesting, like to be part of all these like local initiatives where we see that we can have an impact, even if they're not aligned with our vision or the way we do things. And then, yes, of course, we do a lot of, farm visits with schools. We also participate in some of the events that are organized in our village, where we bring food so that people can try it. We do a lot of workshops in collaboration with other organizations, also very local. And then, of course, having the bookshop, which is only 30 kilometers away in the main city of the region, has also been very helpful, because people get to know us through the bookshop also. And we organize a lot of events there as well, like book readings, concerts, yes, well, like all like cultural stuff. But we've been working a lot in articulating the cultural scene of the region. And this has brought a lot of impact in that field, but also connected to the farm. We also use the bookshop as a how do you say, like a picking up point for the products that we sell. So clients can go and pick it up there. So yes, I don't know if I'm missing anything. Well, and then yes, also selling at the local market, a little bit of everything. I think everything has helped to start building that relationship with the local community. Also, our kids go to the school there in the town, and that also makes that you start building a lot of relationships with other parents. Well, yeah, a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, it sounds to me from all of that each one of those efforts brings in a different aspect of the community, right? The participation in the schools, the participation in the Farmers Association, having a presence in town, all of those things would cover ground in the community that any one individual thing wouldn't cover. And the consistency and the fact that you keep trying new things, and now you've been at it for a number of years, has probably contributed to the place that you find yourself at. So, Anne, to you, what sort of activities and investments in time and effort have really resulted in the best results for you?
Well, I think it fits a bit what Julia says and what you were just describing. Like we see, like I think the most beautiful thing that can come out of our farm is that people decide themselves to work with regeneration, do something with it, like are activated in their own way, in the way they should be activated, because they're all different people. So we have like a very low entry way of getting in touch with regenerative farming, for example, or so we have community dinners for a low fee where people can share a meal at our farm. We have a campsite where people can stay. So we have all kinds of people staying in the campsite. We have a farm shop. We have all kinds of activities throughout the whole year where a lot of different people come to the farm. So we also have some primary school children. We had the top of the police, very interesting, who wants to learn what a regenerative organization was. We have farmers coming over. So impact investors, like really different groups of people. And we give courses, Ricardo and me. So we're with 4 entrepreneurial farmers now. And we also still give courses. And that's also to mainly to activate people to work themselves with regeneration in their own context or in their own way, or start their own farm or restaurant or whatever. And one of my favorite programs right now is actually more of a non-profit project, because our farm is for profit. But it's, as I see it, regenerative farming for me personally is just a step in a longer, probably multi-generational way of us reconnecting ourselves to land and community again in Europe in the 21st century. So you could call that becoming indigenous again, although we're so far away from the average indigenous community that it's it's a long stretch. But so we actually set up a residency program that involves around that question. So how do we become indigenous again in Western Europe in the 21st century? What would it even look like? What would our institutions look like? What would our livelihoods look like? And we have, it's called ERF. So it's a Dutch translation for yard, farmyard. And it has 3 lines: eat, reconnect, farm. And the eat part is for chefs in residence. So they stay at the farm for 8 weeks. They figure out what it is to cook in touch with season and with themselves. And they get the time and space to just develop their own practice. So at the moment we have, for example, a really nice chef, Austrian chef coming in from Barcelona who wants to start her own restaurant. And another chef from Cyprus, young people who are really transforming food. They're making now crumbles from the acorns of the local trees here. And it's just the most delicious thing I ever ate. So it's fantastic. We have at the same time farmers in residence, so people who are already have some farming experience and will use this time to write a business plan, to come up with a new pathway of farming, or just to have the time and peace and meeting space to get inspired and to take their next steps. And at the same time, we have artists. So that's the reconnect part of ERF. So if each reconnect farm, and the reconnect part is the artist part, where we have talented young artists from Europe coming in who are working on this topic and help to reflect on our own process of regeneration in this place as well. So we had an amazing person with mixed indigenous background here as a first artist who set up an app in which you can actually save memories of place at the farm. So you can, now people who come to the campsite can ask for this app at the reception. They can have a walk over the farm and they get all these layers of history and visitors of the farm and read the landscape in different ways. It's really beautiful. And we have another farm now that is an artist who's working on post-colonial cooking and works with the drainage of the landscape, which is a big thing in the Netherlands and which happened here also. And all these stories and all these connections become part of the farm. And I think help us to taking sort of a next step in how we reconnect ourselves again to the land.
That's lovely. I would love to learn more about each of those different activities. It's given me a lot of ideas. Mateo, same question to you.
Yeah, I switched on the computer because it was big troubles.
We got you good now.
Yeah. So as I said before, for sure the kindergarten with the families is the first thing I would say. And then our biggest problem is that we started on the farm without farm barns, structure houses. So we have been building everything from scratches. And we finally, we finished our house, at least for our family. And now we are going in the process of building or rebuilding the houses for the rest of the team. But also farm structures, roofs, and anything that allows you to do any activities not under the rain or the sun. We didn't have any of them. We nearly finished the first structures that we started to build a few years ago. But at the same time, we have been running farm tours since the first year, and hundreds and hundreds, like I would say, I could say over 1,000 people came to the farm to visit and see what we are doing, to get inspired and so on. We organized not a lot, but quite a bit of courses with international educators and not just, also Italians, also connected to EIT food programs. And we connected to the farm thanks to the social medias and various connections of various projects. We basically started a farmers association, Italian Farmers Association, which now reached over 500 farmers all around Italy, which is a beautiful community of exchange on WhatsApp, on different groups. We help each other to be better farmers and to survive to all the difficulties in from economical bureaucracy, agronomical or veterinary point of view. And this has been nice because is out of the farm, but is also thanks to the farm, because we managed to create different communities connected to our farm as well, because we always have been showing our experiments, researches, and ways to interpret ecology. And this, for many people, has been used as examples. And so from there, it's not just about, okay, a farmer started to do something similar or is inspired, but a whole community creates on the dynamics that many of the people observed in our place. And then we have a CSA, so a community supported agriculture, where basically I shouldn't call them customers, but the people that support us, they take the risks, some of the risks that we take. So I think that's the locally speaking is the strongest community impact that we have, which is amazing, and they are following and supporting us since nearly the beginning. So I believe that what is going to happen with the finishing of the farm structures, we'll be able to start a farm restaurant, a agri-camping, and different activities related to these two spaces, which will allow us to organize events and gatherings and markets and so on that we haven't been able to organize up to now. So yeah, little by little, growing different levels of community.
That is beautiful. I'm truly impressed by all of the different endeavors and activities that all of you take on. And I have so many follow-up questions, but it's about time that I hand it over to our listeners. So before I hand it over to the Q&A portion, in case anybody has to leave, I want to say thank you for coming already. And if you are interested in being more involved in these conversations, please consider signing up for the Climate Farmers community if you are an active farmer anywhere in Europe. And if you are pursuing any definition of regeneration, we don't cut off by certain practices or certain, certifications that are out there that puts us into boxes. Instead of unifying us, we are here to help everyone achieve their unique vision of success for their farm. And we have, it's all for free to sign up. We have a lot of resources and love to connect you with other people in your region. We know that, as we've been discussing here, relationships are really at the core of regeneration. And so we welcome you to join us and to follow on this series of panels. So with that out of the way, if anyone has a question that they would like to ask, I would encourage you to go to the little react button at the bottom of your screen, the one that's got a heart on it, and raise your hand. It's easier for me to see you that way.
Now, before we wrap this up, just remember that these episodes are only the beginning of the learning resources, design and coaching services, in-person courses, and interactive community that are available through Regenerative Skills. The Discord server is our free community where you can connect with other like-minded listeners, exchange ideas, stories, tips, and resources, as well as interact with me directly and quite a few former guests from this show. Our Instagram account @regen_skills is the best place to see the projects that me and the team are working on, both for clients and collaborators, as well as on our own properties. I'll also be announcing the certification courses, workshops, and gatherings that we've got coming up later this year. If you're interested in getting dedicated support for your own project, you can now schedule a free planning session with one of our team members through the request form on our website. You can also find all the links, show notes, and past resources there at regenerativeskills.com. We truly believe that no matter your experience, your knowledge, abilities, resources, or background, you can be a powerful force for regeneration on this planet, and we're here to help you find your path. So as always, remember to keep taking those little steps every day towards a regenerative future, and I'll be right by your side along the way.